Hey everyone, it's Empress and welcome back to Emprezz Unbothered. This is the space where we have real conversations about relationships, healing, self-respect, money, independence, reinvention, and learning how to move through life without allowing everybody and everything to disturb our peace. And today, baby, we need to talk. Because I want to talk about something that I think a lot of us done at some point in our lives. And that is staying because we see someone's potential. You know what I'm talking about. You look at somebody and say, I know they're not treating me the way they should right now, but I know they have potential. Or I know they could do better. And sometimes we spend months, years, even decades waiting for somebody to become the person we already know they could be. But here's the uncomfortable truth: potential is not a promise. And today we're going to talk about why choosing someone's potential over their reality can keep you stuck in relationships that are no longer serving you. Potential versus reality. So let's start here. There's absolutely nothing wrong with just seeing the good in somebody. I'm not saying that. We should be able to recognize someone's strengths, their gifts, their potential, and the person they could become. But there is a difference between recognizing someone's potential and building your life around it. Because potential doesn't always tell you what somebody is actually going to do, their behavior does. And sometimes we get so attached to the person we believe somebody can become that we start making excuses for the person they're choosing to be right now. And that's where we get stuck and get ourselves into trouble. Because we're not necessarily in love with the relationship we're actually experiencing. We're in love with the possibility of what the relationship could become. And baby, possibility doesn't pay emotional rent. At some point, you have to look at the situation for what it actually is. Not what you wish it could be, not what it was 3 years ago, not what they promised you, not what they said they were going to do. What are they consistently showing you now? That's the question. What should a healthy relationship look like? For me, relationships have to look different. It has to be stability, consistency, loyalty, honesty, trust, effective communication, consideration, and reciprocation. And reciprocation is important because I don't want to be in a relationship where one person is constantly giving while the other person is constantly receiving. That's not partnership. That's imbalance. I know I don't want to constantly feel like I'm competing for someone's attention. I don't want to compete for consideration. I don't want to compete for importance. And definitely don't want to consistently have to explain why my feelings matter. A relationship should have two people participating, two people communicating, listening, compromising, showing consideration, and making effort. Because listening isn't just waiting for your turn to talk. Sometimes you have to actually listen to understand the person you're with. And that's something I think relationships are missing today. We're so busy trying to prove that we're right that we forget we're supposed to be trying to understand each other. The bare minimum isn't enough. And let's talk about the bare minimum. Because somewhere along the way, we started celebrating basic relationship behavior like it was extraordinary. Somebody communicates with you once. Oh my God, he communicated. Yay. Somebody does something nice for you. Girl, he bought me flowers. Okay. But what happens after the flowers? What happens when you're upset? What happens when there's conflict? What happens when you need emotional support? What happens when life gets hard? What happens when you need consistency? Because anybody can show up occasionally. I'm looking for somebody who shows up consistently. And I don't want to have to beg somebody to give me what they naturally should want to give me anyway. Effort shouldn't have to be dragged out of somebody. Communication shouldn't feel like pulling teeth. Respect shouldn't be something I have to negotiate. And loyalty shouldn't be something I have to constantly question. The bare minimum isn't enough anymore. And that's not me saying I'm looking for perfection. I'm not. People are human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have bad days. We're going to misunderstand each other. But there's a difference between making mistakes and making a lifestyle out of disappointing somebody. When the alignment is no longer there, and sometimes the hardest thing to accept is that two people can care about each other and still not be good for each other. That's a hard pill to swallow because we want everything to have a villain. We want somebody to be completely wrong and somebody else to be completely right. But sometimes it's simply we're not aligned anymore. Maybe your values change. Maybe your priorities change. Maybe what you want from a relationship changed. Maybe you're ready for stability and the other person is still comfortable with chaos. Maybe you're ready for commitment and they're comfortable keeping things casual. Maybe you're ready to communicate and they're still avoiding difficult conversations. Maybe you're ready to grow and they're perfectly comfortable staying where they are. And that doesn't necessarily mean either person is equal. It means you're going in different directions. And sometimes the healthiest thing you can say is, I love you, but this isn't working for me anymore. And walk away. No revenge, no social media wars, no exposing everybody's business, no trying to make the other person jealous, no unnecessary drama. Just different paths. Boundaries are not punishment. And this brings me to boundaries because the boundaries aren't about controlling another person. A boundary isn't, you better stop doing this. A boundary is, if this continues, I will remove myself because, I'm sorry. Let me repeat that. A boundary is, if this continues, I will remove myself from the situation. That's the difference. And I'm standing 10 toes down on that. Because I'm at a point in my life where protecting my peace is not something I'm willing to negotiate. If somebody repeatedly crosses a boundary after I've clearly communicated it, I'm not going to spend the next 5 years explaining the same thing. At some point, the boundary has to have a consequence. And sometimes that consequence is simple. Access denied. Not because I hate you, not because I'm bitter, not because I'm trying to punish you, but because I've learned that my peace has value. And everybody doesn't get unlimited access to me just because we have history. History is not a lifetime membership. Woof. Laughing out loud. Okay? The question we need to ask ourselves. So here's the question I want you to ask yourself. Not what could this person become? Ask yourself, who are they consistently choosing to be? Because that's the person you're actually in a relationship with. And if the answer doesn't match what you need, you have a decision to make. You can continue waiting for potential, or you can choose reality. And choosing reality doesn't mean you're giving up on love. It means you're giving up on forcing love to look the way you imagine it to be. There's a difference. You can love somebody and still choose yourself. You can care about somebody and still walk away. You can forgive somebody and still not give them the same access to you. And you can wish somebody well enough. You can wish somebody well without inviting them back into your life. That's not being cold. That's having boundaries. So, if you're listening to this today, you're sitting in a relationship wondering, oh, I'm sorry. If you are listening to this today and you're sitting in a relationship wondering, am I asking for too much? Maybe you're not asking for too much. Let me rewind and come again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. So I was saying, if you are listening to this today and you're sitting in a relationship wondering, am I asking for too much? Maybe you're not asking for too much. Maybe you're simply asking the wrong person. And if you're constantly begging for consistency, begging for communication, begging for honesty, begging for consideration, begging somebody to show up, maybe the answer isn't to beg harder. Maybe the answer is to listen to what their behavior is telling you. Because potential is not a promise. Effort is not something you should have to beg for. And love should never feel like one person is carrying the entire relationship while the other person simply benefits from it. Moving forward, choose relationships that feel like partnership. Choose stability, consistency, honesty, loyalty, communication, consideration, reciprocation, and most importantly, choose peace. Because 2026 going into 2027, baby, we are not playing about our peace. No resentment, no revenge, no unnecessary drama, just boundaries, self-respect, and sometimes separate paths. And remember, if you constantly have to explain why your boundaries deserve to be respected, that relationship may already be giving you your answer. This is Empress, and this is Emprezz Unbothered. I'll see you in the next episode. And thank you so much for spending these few minutes with me today. If something I said resonated with you, don't just listen and keep scrolling. Take a moment and really think about it. Ask yourself, am I loving somebody for who they are? Or am I holding on because of who I hope they'll become? And if this conversation spoke to you, make sure you subscribe to Emprezz Unbothered on YouTube, follow the podcast, and share this episode with somebody who might need to hear it. We're building this community one conversation at a time. Until next time, stay confident, stay grounded, stay true to yourself, and most importantly, stay unbothered.